Welcome back to 6-Minute Math, where we turn confusion into clarity 6 minutes at a time. Thank you for joining us today for our video on finding the surface area of composite figures, the extended version. Ring that bell to get notified of more 6-minute content, including how to find surface area and volume of most three-dimensional objects. We will not have a countdown today, as we want to give ample time to understand how to find the surface area of composite objects. Here we go. Our key points are to understand that surface area is the area covering the outside of a three-dimensional object. For composite figures, we are going to be having two or more three-dimensional objects put together. To find this surface area, we are going to calculate the area of each of the sides of the three-dimensional object and then add them all together. For our composite figures, I'm going to teach you two ways to do it. One way is to find all the sides and add them together, and another way is to split up your three-dimensional objects, find the surface areas, and then subtract where they overlap. Key point is to remember that all surface area is given in the form of unit squared, as it is still in area. So let's go into an example of a composite figure. Here I have a house, and if I were to find the surface area of that house, I would have to find the bottom, plus the front and back, plus the sides, plus the two triangles, and then plus what I'm calling is the roof. Now the area I am not going to be looking for is this area where the rectangular prism and triangular prism overlap, as that is not going to be calculated in the surface area. So how do I figure out my surface area? I'm going to calculate the bottom. This is going to be a rectangle, so I'm going to have 6 times 8, as that is my length and width. That's going to be 48. So I'm going to put that into my little chart to keep me organized. My front and back, again, are rectangles. So one of those rectangles is 4 times 6. That would be 24. I have 2 of them, so I'm going to multiply that by 2 to get 48. I'm going to put that into my chart. I'm now going to do the sides. This again are rectangles. One of those rectangles is 8 times 4. So one side is 32. There are 2 sides, so both of them together would be 64. On to the triangles. We have 1/2 base times height. So one of those triangles is 1/2 3 times 6. 3 is the height of my triangle, and then the base of my triangle is that base of the house, which is 6. One of those triangles is 9. 9 times 2 is 18. And then lastly, I'm going to look for the roof. This shape is a rectangle, so I'm going to have 5 times 8. 5 is the length, 8 is the width. One of those is 40. I have 2 sides that are the same as by these hash marks. So my roof is 80. I have found all the sides of my composite figure. So my last step is to add them up. 48 plus 48 plus 64 plus 18 plus 80 is going to be 258. Which is the final surface area of my composite shape. So let's get into some examples here. We're going to find the surface area of the following rounded to the nearest tenth. So I have 2 three-dimensional objects here. I have a rectangular prism and a cylinder. So what I'm going to do is find each of those individually. We have our rectangular prism. I will do that in blue. So I'm just going to outline that here. And we're going to put our measurements in. So we have our length, our width, and our height. And we're going to put that into our formula. So my surface area is equal to 2 times 5 times 6 plus 2 times 6 times 4 plus 2 times 4 times 5. 2 times 5 times 6 is 60. 2 times 6 times 4 is 48. Plus 2 times 4 times 5 is 40. And I would add those up. So the surface area of my rectangular prism is 148. Let's now find the surface area of my cylinder. So the surface area of my cylinder is 2 times pi times my radius, which is 2 squared, plus 2 times pi times 2 times that height is 4. 2 times pi times 2 squared is 25.13274 ... plus 2 times pi times 2 times 4 is going to be 50.26548. And I would add those together. So the surface area of my cylinder is going to be 75.3982. Now for this composite shape, I have found my two separate shapes. I have found my rectangular prism and my cylinder. I now need to find the area which I won't include in my surface area, and that is going to be the bottom of this cylinder. So I need to figure out what that is here in yellow. Now that is a circle, so I'm going to find that area of that circle. So I'm going to say the area of the circle in yellow is pi r squared, which is also equal to pi times 2 squared. And there are two of those. So I need to subtract it once from the cylinder and then once where it connects to the rectangular prism. So I'm going to multiply that by 2 to get my total area that I will subtract of 25.13274 ... So I'm going to take my rectangular prism, add my cylinder, and subtract the part where they connect twice, once for each shape. So I add all those up, 148 plus 75.39822 minus 25.13274, and my total surface area is going to equal 198.26548. I'm going to round that to the nearest tenth. So my surface area is 198.3 centimeters squared. Let's check out another example here. We're going to find the surface area of the following, and we have this composite shape. So what two shapes do I have? I have a cylinder and a sphere, or in this case, half a sphere. So what I'm actually going to do in this case is I'm going to isolate the parts of my three-dimensional objects that I need. My cylinder formula, I have this is 2 circles plus the lateral side. In this specific shape, I do not need the top of my cylinder, so I don't need 2 circles, I only need the one. So I'm going to write a new formula for me. This is going to be the surface area. Total surface area is one of the circles, pi r squared, plus the lateral side of 2 pi r h. Then I am looking for half of this sphere. Here in yellow, I am only looking for half of the sphere. So I'm going to take my sphere surface area formula of 4 pi r squared, and I'm going to divide that by 2. Now this formula is going to be the total surface area of my object. I have one of the circles, plus the lateral side of the cylinder, plus half of the sphere. So let's plug numbers in. We have pi times my radius of 4 squared, plus 2 pi for my height of 3, plus 4 pi 4 squared divided by 2. I find each of those separately. Pi times 4 squared is 50.26548 plus 2 times pi times 4 times 3 is going to be 75.39822 plus 4 times pi times 4 squared divided by 2 is 100.5309. And I add all of those up for a final surface area of 226.19466. Let's round that to the nearest hundredth. So my final surface area is 226.19 meters squared. Let's check out the next example. I have this composite object, which if I break it down is one cylinder, and I have 2 cones. Now in this case, I am going to do it like the last example, where I'm going to break down each of my formulas into what I need. Let's do my cones first. So if I look at the surface area of a cone formula, I know that pi r squared is one of the circles, and pi rs is the lateral side. I do not need each of the circles, and I'm going to have 2 of the lateral cones. So my new surface area is going to be 2 times pi rs, which in this case would be 2 of the lateral sides of the cone, plus I look at my surface area formula for cylinder. 2 pi r squared is the 2 circles. In this case, I do not need those 2 circles. And 2 pi r h is the lateral side of the cylinder. So that is actually what I need, 2 pi r h. So there is my new formula for surface area of this composite shape. Let's plug in some numbers. So we have 2 times pi times my radius of 1.5 and my slant height of 3, plus 2 times pi, my radius is 1.5, and the height of that cylinder is 12. 2 times pi times 1.5 times 3 is 28.274 plus 2 times pi times 1.5 times 12 is 113.0973 and I add those together for a surface area of 141.3716. And we're going to round that to the nearest tenth for a final surface area answer of 141.4 square feet. On to another example. We're going to find the surface area of this following object. So I do have three shapes here. I have my rectangular prism, I have a triangular prism on top, and then I have a cylinder through the middle. Let's break this down, and we're going to find each of these shapes separately and then subtract the areas that we don't need. So we're going to do the area of that rectangular prism first. I'm just going to shade it in blue so we can keep this organized. We have a surface area of 2. I should label my length, width, and height. Times 7 times 14. Plus 2 times 14 times 4. Plus 2 times 4 times 7. 2 times 7 times 14 is 196. Plus 2 times 14 times 4 is 112. Plus 2 times 4 times 7 is 56. So the surface area of that rectangular prism is 364. Let's now do my triangular prism here in red. The surface area of that triangular prism. Let's do the triangles first. So the surface area of my triangles is base times height divided by 2. And there's 2 triangles, so I'm going to multiply that by 2. My base is 3, my height is 2.5. So we have 3 times 2.5 divided by 2 times 2 for my triangles. So those areas of the triangles are 7.5. And my rectangles are length times width. So I have 3 as my length, 7 as my width, and there are 3 rectangles. So let's go length times width, 3 times 7. There's 3 rectangles. So my rectangles would be 21 each, and there's 3 of them for 63. The last thing we need to look for is the area of this cylinder. Now in this case, this is a hole through my composite shape. So I'm actually just going to look for the lateral side, which would be the inside of this hole. So let's just do that in yellow. So we have the surface area of that lateral side, which is 2 pi RH. So we have 2 times pi times 1 times 7. 2 times pi times 1 times 7 is 43.9822. At this point, I have found my 3 sides and 3 shapes. So we have our rectangular prism, plus our triangular prism, plus the cylinder lateral side through the shape. I will need to subtract some areas though. I need to subtract this pink shape where it connects, and I also need to subtract 2 circles of this hole. So let's figure out that rectangle first. We have 3 times 7. So the area of that rectangle is 3 times 7, which is 21. And I'm going to subtract that twice. Once for the triangular prism and once for the rectangular prism. So I'm going to multiply that by 2 for 42. That will be subtracted. I'm just going to say subtract so I don't get confused. And then I also need to find the area of that circle, which is pi r squared, which is pi 1 squared. And there are two circles, one on the front and one on the back. So I multiply that by 2. This is going to give me another subtraction of 6.28318. And then I add up everything and subtract what I don't need. 364 plus 7.5 plus 63 plus 43.982 minus 42 minus 6.28318 gives me a final surface area of 430.19902. And I'm going to make that into a proper round to the nearest hundredth, which is 430.20 inches squared. A couple more examples here. We're going to find the surface area of the following, and we have a rectangular prism with a sphere. For this case, I'm going to find my rectangular prism first, then I'm going to find half the sphere, and then I need to understand what I might be subtracting. So let's find that rectangular prism. Again, I'm shading here in blue just to keep me organized. So we have surface area is length, width, and height. 2 times 21 times 21 plus 2 times 21 times 5 plus 2 times 5 times 21. 2 times 21 times 21 is 882 plus 2 times 21 times 5 is 210. And then 2 times 5 times 21 is also 210, making my surface area of the rectangular prism 1,302. Let's now find the surface area of this half sphere that goes into my rectangular prism. So my total sphere is 4 pi r squared, which would make half a sphere of 4 pi r squared divided by 2. This is going to give us 4 times pi times 6 squared divided by 2. And I plug that into a calculator for 226.1946 ... If I add those together, I would get the total surface area of them separate, these two objects, but there is a portion of this that I need to subtract from my total. And that portion is this top circle. I'm taking it away from my rectangular prism. So the area of that circle is pi r squared. That radius is 6, so we have pi times 6 squared, and that is equal to 113.0973. So we are going to add our rectangular prism with our half sphere and subtract that top circle, as that is not part of my surface area, making my final surface area 1,415.0972. And we're going to round that to the nearest hundredth for a final surface area of 1,115.10 centimeters squared. On to our last example here. We're going to find the following surface area of this composite shape, and we actually have a combination of three-dimensional objects. We have a rectangular prism, we have 3 cylinders, we have 1 cone, and 2 half spheres. So we are going to use all of these when calculating the surface area of this whole composite object. Let's do our rectangular prism first. So we're just going to outline that in blue and label length, width, and height. So we have our surface area is 2 times 8 times 32 plus 2 times 32 times 6 plus 2 times 6 times 8. This is going to be 512 plus 384 plus 96. I add all those together, 512, 384, and 96, for a final surface area of 992 for that rectangular prism. For my cylinders, we are just going to figure out the lateral side of all 3 of them. So if I look at my cylinder formula, I know that it's 2 circles plus the lateral side. I'm just going to use that lateral side, which is 2 pi RH. My radius is 4 for all of them, and my height is 8. And I have 3 of those cylinders. So I'm going to multiply that by 3. 2 times pi times 4 times 8 is 201.06192. I multiply that by 3. So that surface area is going to be 603.1857 for my lateral sides. Then I'm going to look at my sphere. My sphere formula, let's do this one in yellow, is 4 pi r squared. So we have 4 times pi times that radius of 4 squared. A half sphere is divided by 2. But then I would need to multiply it by 2 to get both spheres. Mathematically, I have a multiply by 2 divide by 2. Those can cancel each other off as they are opposite operations, making the surface area of the yellow objects just 4 times pi times 4 squared. And that's going to give me 201.06192. I need to figure out the slant height of that cone. Let's do that in pink here. Or not slant height, the surface area. So if I look at my cone, we have a circle plus the lateral side. I just want that lateral side of pi times 4 times 6.5. I plug that into a calculator for 81.6814. And then I have one more thing I need to figure out for this composite object, which is I have figured out the entire rectangular prism, but I haven't accounted for where these cylinders connect. So we need to subtract 3 circles from that rectangular prism. So we have the area is going to be pi times 4 squared, and there are 3 circles. Plug that into a calculator for 150.79644, and that is going to be subtracted. So what do we have? We have the rectangular prism plus the 3 lateral sides of cylinders plus the 2 hemispheres plus the lateral side of the cone, subtracting the 3 circles where they connect to the rectangular prism. I add all of those up and I get a surface area of 1,727.1026. Round that to the nearest tenth for a final answer of 1,727.1 square inches. Those are all the examples we have today for finding the surface area of composite figures. Ring that bell to get notified of more 6-minute content and follow us on Instagram and TikTok at 6Minute Math. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment below for any topic you want to see me tackle in a future 6-minute episode. Always remember that the best way to get math is to practice math, so keep on practicing. And until next time, keep solving and evolving.